Hey, She Ace That listeners, find us on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Every subscribe, like, and follow goes a long way, and I can't thank you all enough for your support. And with that, let's get into today's episode. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to She Ace That. It's your host, Alexandra. And I'm so excited for today's episode. But before we dive into that, I wanted to chat with you all for a few minutes about what's been happening in the volleyball world. NCAA volleyball tournament's currently ongoing. First off, if you're watching, it's been extremely fun to watch. Great talent, awesome games. The bracket's starting to come together. We're getting into the next rounds. Just wrapped up the second round this past weekend, and there were some battles out there. Top seeded Nebraska swept Kansas State on Saturday. They advanced to the Sweet 16. That is their 41st time making it to the regional semifinals, which is just wild to me, but says a lot about their program. Harper Murray and Andy Jackson combined for 20 kills to keep the Huskers rolling. They'll face Kansas next, and defending champions Penn State got knocked out by Texas in a sweep on Saturday night as well. Not shocking to me, obviously. I always love a lower ranked team to come take a higher ranked team just because there is such a big part of the mental game there. But I'm shooting for Texas to be in the national championship against Nebraska. I feel like that would be probably one of the most fun games to watch. Penn State winning last year, I think it just is probably a bummer for them. Like, obviously, anybody would want to be back-to-back champions in this tournament, like Texas was a few years ago. But, anything can happen in these types of environments. And I'm excited to see where Texas goes this year. Pitt swept Michigan behind 24 kills from Olivia Babcock. And I actually had somebody comment on my TikTok the other day that their wife was the previous record holder for kills in a match at Pitt, and her wife, she had that for I think like 22 years, and then Olivia Babcock broke that record this past weekend for this tournament. So I thought that was really cool too, to just make that connection in the volleyball world and have somebody reach out on social media to kind of let me know what that record breaking situation was. And I think it's just incredible that there are people at these colleges, there are athletes that hold these records for decades. And then really it's just waiting for somebody to step up to the plate and replace their name. But they're still part of it. They're still a legend in that history of that school. So always fun. Regional start this week, Thursday and Friday. We'll see even more epic matchups. The Final Four is December 18th, and then the National Championship is Sunday, December 21st on ABC. Awesome. I hope everybody watches it. I'm sure the stadium's going to be packed. If you're not watching, you're missing out on truly the best volleyball of the year. So this is my favorite time of year. I love being able to have multiple games on at one time and being able to support the sport that we love. And I'm just, again, I know this is like a broken record on She Ace That, but really grateful that it's getting the visibility it deserves. Before we get into our guest, I want to talk about club season. For all my club players out there, obviously most of you already went through tryouts this year. Some might be going through tryouts now for various clubs for this upcoming club season. And everybody's, unless you're in college or playing professionally, you are in that transition period between high school season ending and club season ramping up. And I think this transition is hard, or it can be hard. Like, nobody really talks about how exhausting it is to go from high school straight into club. I mean, obviously you get some time off if you're lucky, but we did an episode like a few episodes ago about off-season preparation. So definitely take a look back on that if you haven't. Just gives you some advice of like giving yourself compassion and grace on not really having to like work super hard during the off season. Like, this is your time to make sure you're set up for success for this upcoming season. So take the downtime, ease into it, make the sport fun again, and like kind of just reframe your brain so that you're really ready to go, ready to work as January rolls around or whenever your club season is starting. But it can be like a little bit of burnout from high school, right? Like, we're already in that schedule, in that mode, around the same people, the same environment in high school, can get draining. And obviously sometimes it is a relief to have it off your plate. And then other times, obviously you're always going to miss it to a point, especially if you're a senior. It can be burnout to go from being used to one environment to the next environment at club from high school. And I want to share just some insights there with you all. So I loved high school volleyball. I always had a great experience. I mean, I didn't learn the most. I feel like at high school, I excelled tremendously from a skill and mental perspective when it came to club, which I feel like most people do. That's probably a pretty common situation. But, I genuinely loved high school. So it was my happy place. I felt pretty content. I knew everybody. I also knew my role on the team. Some were relieved when club was starting because they didn't want high school to continue anymore. And they were like, just grateful to get through another season. Some of my friends didn't come back. Like if they were a junior, they didn't come back and play senior year. But the positive of club is that it's a fresh start. That new environment, those new perspectives, a new coach, it can be really refreshing to just have a new dynamic. And most of the time for club, you're not practicing nearly as much as you do for high school. So it's not as big of a time commitment. Obviously, you're potentially traveling more and there's higher level playing competition, but it's just a totally different schedule than what you're used to from high school. So it is good for it to be relieving. And I think it should be looked at as relieving. But here's the thing about switching from high school to club. It's so important to understand that high school volleyball is about comfort and connection. You're playing with your friends, representing your school, backed by student sections, Friday night lights, you're going to football games at the same time. There's something really special about the community aspect, and you don't get that immediately with club. But I will say club volleyball is where you grow. So that's where the competition level jumps. That's where college coaches are watching even more. That's where you get pushed out of your comfort zone with new coaching styles and higher expectations. Both are so valuable and both are needed. I just do believe they serve different purposes. And now here's what I want you to know if you're entering club season right now and you're feeling some type of way about it. If you're dreading club because you loved high school and you miss your teammates, that's completely valid. You just spent every single day with those girls for 3 or 4 months straight. And of course you miss them. So let yourself feel that. But if you're ready for club because high school was rough, then maybe the dynamics weren't great and you didn't have the playing time you wanted. Maybe you just needed a reset. That's also completely valid. And if you're just straight up exhausted right now, you're not alone. Every club athlete feels this in December. Your body's tired. Your brain's tired from school. You're probably have finals finishing up. You're coming off months of consecutive volleyball, especially from the summertime of going into open gyms right after you got done with your club season. Here's my advice as you navigate this transition. First, it's okay to not be 100% in December. And that's why that off-season episode is really important to me. You just played straight through for months. Give yourself grace in those first practices, getting back into the club season. Club is a marathon, not a sprint. Nationals aren't until summer. You don't have to peak right now. The second thing is new teams means new dynamics in every realm. What worked on your high school team might not work here. The culture might be different. The expectations might be different. So be adaptable, stay open. Don't try to force your old team's vibe onto this new situation. It still takes time getting into a new club, new program, even if you're told, hey, you're going to be the starting medal. Allow time to really tell you what your roles and responsibilities are going to be. I think we get all excited. We're going to have a different change of pace. And sometimes we end up in the same place as we did with high school. And that's just how it goes sometimes, depending on the year. And it's about working through it and figuring out what you need to do for yourself and for your new team. Third, this is recruiting season. I mean, if you have college goals, club is when it really matters. College coaches are at these tournaments, they're watching. So even when you're tired, even when you're adjusting, show up ready to work. And finally, communicate with your coaches. If you're struggling with the transition, if your body needs rest, if you're feeling overwhelmed, say something. Good coaches want to know where you're at so they can support you. Remember that club is your time to develop. Every person I talk to, pretty much everybody, has told me that they developed tremendously in every single way in club compared to high school. I do think it's the environment, but just remember, it's not about the Instagram followers or the clout or trying to be the next viral player. It's about putting your head down, working hard, and getting better every single practice. And I notice a lot of athletes going to that influencer route, which is cool. I actually think it's amazing. But nowadays, there's so many more distractions when it comes to focusing on sports. Comparison on social media, complaining on social media, which again, not all bad, but just be very cognizant of what you're feeding into as you enter a new season. You want to start fresh. You want to start professional, right? You are fulfilling a job here. Yes, it should be fun. Yes, whatever. But just take that into consideration. And find a club and team that you feel supported. There are so many clubs out there where the coaching pushes you to grow and where the culture aligns with who you are as a person, not just as a player. And if you're a parent listening, please let your athlete have ownership of this process. Support them, guide them, but let them learn to advocate for themselves. Those skills matter so much more than anything they'll learn on the court. And if your friend Judy, your bestie, runs a club and you want your kid to play there because it's cheaper and they're having a really hard time with their coach, or it's not the best club that they could play at. Like, give them some credit and maybe just see if there's other options or opportunities. Rest when you can, fuel your body properly, and give yourself permission to feel whatever you're feeling about this transition, because it's all valid. There's pros and cons to both seasons, and everybody has their different takes on it. So allow time to do what it needs to do. And I promise you, you're going to have a great club season this year as long as you keep your priorities in front of you. I've been doing these guest interviews and they've been so fun, but I think it's amazing how every single person I've interviewed, they all have their own unique volleyball journey or like sports journey or life's journey. They all have been impacted differently, and we all play the same sports, or like we can all relate as athletes, or we can relate as parents, coaches, players, but every single one of us has a completely different story, different challenges, different victories, different reasons for why we keep showing up. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in comparing ourselves to other people's highlight reels that we forget our own story is valuable exactly as it is. Like, we don't think our own stories are worthwhile in sharing, or like, who really cares? But every single person I've talked to, I've had like an aha moment when talking to them or hearing about their perspective on their journeys. I just want to, I guess, take a few minutes to say, like, maybe you're not the starting player on your team. Maybe you didn't get recruited by your dream school, right? Like, maybe you're struggling with confidence or playing time or feeling like you're not good enough. But here's the thing, those struggles, that adversity, like, that's what shapes you into the person that you specifically are meant to become. And I truly believe that every single one of you listening has a story that could inspire someone else who's going through something similar. So whether you're thriving right now and you're in the thick of a really hard season, give yourself some grace, keep showing up, keep working. Time always does what it needs to do, and know that your journey matters, even when it doesn't look the way you thought it would. And that's what reminds me of today's guest. This conversation absolutely blew me away. I am really excited for you all to hear it. Today I'm talking with Mackenzie Yoakum, a senior at the University of West Georgia, who is one of the most powerful stories I've heard. Mackenzie was a 3-time first-team All-State player in high school at Homewood in Alabama. She had nearly 700 kills her last 2 years of high school, led her team to state for the first time since 2008, won a bronze medal at nationals with her club team. She's a star, okay? Then she got to college. She went to Seton Hall, and everything kind of changed for her. She had a little bit more limited playing time, questioning what her purpose was, struggling to find herself in this new identity. And I think that's hard for anybody going into college, whether they're an athlete or not, but especially when you're used to the same routine and schedule. It's like, okay, here I am thrown into this new way of life on my own. What, like, who am I? And I think we all have that one way or another, which is really amazing about this episode. She transferred to West Georgia from Seton Hall looking for a fresh start, took a redshirt year, and continued to navigate what it means to love volleyball when volleyball doesn't look the way you expected it to. Here's what makes Mackenzie's story so incredible is she never gave up. She redefined what success meant to her. She became the bench captain. She found joy in supporting her teammates. She learned fortitude and resilience that most people will never understand. And through it all, she figured out who she is beyond the stat sheet. This conversation is raw, it's honest, it's vulnerable, and it's going to resonate with so many of you, whether you're a player struggling with playing time, a coach trying to understand your athletes better, or a parent supporting your kid through adversity. I really appreciate Mackenzie being so honest during this episode. I think it is going to relate to a lot of you, and you will be able to take a lot from this. So, without further ado, let's get into my conversation with Mackenzie Yoakum. Mackenzie Yoakum, welcome to She
Thank
That.
you.
I want to go back to the beginning of your volleyball journey, and how did volleyball find you?
Okay. So I am an only child. So my parents were very supportive of doing everything. I'm sure like it was just kind of this and that, trying to keep her busy. I started out doing, of course, like the little peewee volleyball, but I also did that with almost every single sport. My sport actually was swimming. I swam for 10 years and I just immediately fell in love with competition. And then slowly but surely, I fell out of love with swimming because it was just so individual. I am the type of person that just needs to be around people at all times, always. And of course, it was fun. Swim meet days and kind of being in the pool was always a great, just easy thing for me to do as a kid. But I slightly grew out of it. And then let's see, I got to middle school and I made the 7th grade team. I was so ecstatic. I have a screenshot of when I made it. I sent like 4 heart emojis and a crying face to my mom. I said, "I made it, mommy." And that was like kind of the start of something for me to just know that I was always destined to be an athlete. I did basketball as well. I was in the band and I did show choir. So I was like doing literally everything. My school, I went to Homewood High School in middle school, and everything is just so you can do sports, you can do arts, you can do literally anything you want. So they're so supportive of that. And then I decided to try out for club my 8th grade year because I wanted to take it more seriously, but also a lot of my friends were doing it. And so I was able to try out at Alabama Performance, which was Southern Performance at the time, which is a sister club of Spry. So same thing, long socks, tucked in shirts, attention to detail,
Yeah.
all of that good stuff. I learned that at the ripe age of 12. I'm really young for my grade. I just turned 21 and I'm a senior. So I was like in middle school, in like high school, I was 13 years old, like it just really crazy young age, but always loved being around people. And then I ended up playing at AP for 6 years, maybe it was 7, I can't remember. But I started my 14th year, finished it out, and it was just one hell of a ride. So yeah.
I love it. No, that's amazing. So then in high school, like what position did you fall into and like what is the background
Yeah, so
there?
that's a great question. I actually played middle because I was so tall in middle school. That's like when girls
Mhm.
kind of shoot up their growth spurt. So I also cannot jump.
Yeah.
That is kind of one of my things as an athlete, especially in middle school when I had no agility training. It was just terrible. I have a picture of me, like my hands are like this far over the net. But yeah, so I was in middle and then I'm a lefty. So they were always like, "Oh, you're destined to be
Ah.
right side. You're gonna be right side." So when I tried out for club, I only played right side. I was told that, you're gonna get recruited just because you're left-handed. And so I ended up staying right side my whole life, but because I was at a club where they valued a lot of ball control, I ended up practicing serve receive, defense. At times, I would play outside if we really needed it, but I was always considered a right side, nothing much more than that. I wasn't the best at blocking in high school. And then I tried out for my varsity team my freshman year after one single year of club and I made varsity. There was only there was 3 of us. So 2 other girls on the team that were freshmen on varsity. And it was actually surreal. I will never forget how young and inexperienced I felt on a varsity team. We were not good at all. But from those 4 years, from freshman year to my senior year of high school, my senior year, we made state for the first time since 2008. It was in 2022. And so we just grew the program little by little. And of course, club was getting a lot more, I don't want to say popular, but people were just kind of going to more clubs in Birmingham. And so it was a little bit more of okay, the higher level volleyball, we're gonna revamp Alabama volleyball and we're gonna make it good. So yeah, by the time I was a senior, I led the team in kills and just was so proud of the way that our program grew and the culture that we created. I was club captain for my senior year at club as well. And we kind of entered a new era of like playing in open divisions. So knowing that my position was always going to be the same, it kind of allowed me to step into a bigger role of, like I can pass, but I'm going to be a hitter. I can block, but I'm gonna put the ball away. So having that identity of not only just as an offensive player, but also not kind of getting moved around and feeling like, I don't really know what my role is was very powerful in my high school years. And it allowed me to kind of step into a larger leadership role.
I do feel like there's a beauty in obviously being able to be versatile, like you're saying, and, practicing serve, receive, and
Right.
passing in other areas. But I think at the same time, like it's really refreshing. And I think most athletes, especially in volleyball, crave that stability in their position and like knowing their role and responsibility on their team and just getting that, playing time and fully understanding it from that perspective, along with club just being like a catalyst for skills. Cause I feel like high school, it's great. It's dynamic, especially if you have a good team and you're friends with people on the team and it's fun to be backed by your school, like with fans or whatever. But at the end of the day, I think club's really where we grow and like it's a catalyst for us for our next
Yes.
step.
Yeah. And I think just the foundation of me joining after 8th grade, like I knew that I wanted to get better at volleyball. And I feel like in that level too, like clubs need to focus so much more on like the basics. Like it really is a skill issue.
Mhm.
It's not about the clout. And I feel like club is just even in the 6 years or I guess 5 years now that I haven't really been a club athlete, it's grown and it's
Mhm.
changed so much. Like I had a volleyball
Mhm.
account on Instagram, but I wasn't posting to get famous. I wasn't posting to get clout. Like it was solely for me to just post for recruiting reasons. And I feel like club now, it's
Mhm.
like Harper Murray became famous in club and now look at her at Nebraska. Like it's just such a different
Yeah.
culture. And I feel like we've kind of shifted away from like, okay, I'm gonna go and put my head down in the gym and work. And I don't care if I'm playing, I'm getting better. And club also, have the smaller roster. So it's not about being like a big fish in a little pond. It's about putting your
Mhm.
head down and working, and that was just kind of my favorite part about club was just get in there, work hard, and sweat, cry tears. I
Mhm.
cannot remember like, I just every single day at practice, I would get into club, and I wouldn't wanna say I felt scared, but it was kind of just overwhelming feeling of, like, I know I'm gonna have to work hard today, and that just prepared me so much for my college years, so very good.
Playing club in like 8th grade, especially before you get to the high school levels, at like playing with girls that are potentially 4 years older
Yeah,
than you, that's a really good time to start club volleyball. Like, I think before 8th grade, it's not super necessary because you're still playing in middle school and you're getting the basics and those dynamics down. But I didn't play club until my freshman year in high school. And I so wish I played it that year before, just because you have that, like you're saying, the competitive nature, the foundation, more reps, and like understanding it at a higher level versus the middle school level. And my friends who did play club in 8th grade were the ones that made, JV or varsity their freshman year versus like all of us who maybe made freshman or JV. And for me, like playing club freshman year allowed me to be a catalyst for my sophomore year to make varsity. And I think there's just a huge correlation there. And I know, there's a lot of athletes that aren't able to either afford it or maybe have the resources to play club that young or at all. But I just think if anybody's listening to this, it's highly recommended to get in as early as you can and find, the other team dynamic outside of just what you're used to with
100%.
school.
I totally agree.
I appreciate you sharing all that. So then your amazing high school career, you felt like you had everything figured out from the volleyball standpoint, and then you were looking at recruiting.
Yes.
Can you tell me like what year in high school did you
Yeah.
start gathering content and videos for recruiting, and then how did that transition go for you?
Yeah, so this is a really long story, which I'm very grateful that I get to share. So I had a completely different high school recruiting experience than a lot of my friends. One of my best friends was actually like, I will never forget. I walked into her house my junior year of high school. It was right after COVID. And we were just kind of walking down the stairs, and I saw an invite, a camp invite on her stair. And I was like, oh my gosh, you have a camp invite. And then I opened it up and it was from Nebraska. And I was like, "You've got to be
Wow.
kidding me. Like, you're getting recruited by Nebraska, Baylor, Texas, like, all of these crazy." She was a libero too, which is insane because usually, the pins and the setters get recruited first. So,
Yeah.
I was just like, "Oh my gosh," that was kind of just one of my moments where I am so behind. My junior year, I made the 1s team every single year of my club years, which I'm so grateful for because it just put me in a lot of higher level situations. And so I was able to go to all these crazy tournaments. When COVID hit, that was rough. That was my sophomore year. So kind of going back into this, like, okay, now we get to be in person tournaments, and now we get to talk to coaches. My June 15th, I woke up to one email. Did not have any good looks at all. It was me trying to reach out to schools and me, sending out these emails. But of course, like when I got them on a phone call, I told them everything that I was about. That first phone call that you have with a coach is so important to just represent yourself
Mhm.
because they're not looking at you as a volleyball player, they're looking at you as a person. And that was kind of something that I took to heart every single time that I got on the phone with someone was, they're going to look at my stats in high school and they're going to see, I took the team to state, or I helped out in this area of volleyball, or I'm X, Y, and Z in kills and I have this high percentage number. Like at the end of the day, it
Mhm.
was about who I was as a person. I'm a culture kid. I come up to practice every single day. I love to make people laugh. I love to like just make the gym space so much more endearing. And I think that the Lord blessed me with that gift. And so just being able to talk to coaches during my junior year was really successful for me. So I ended up talking to a lot of schools. My father works at Stanford University. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but my dad works at Stanford. It's across from my high school. And so I was like, okay, like if I don't go to Stanford for academics, like I'm going to play volleyball. I have a backup plan. We'll see. Well, then I made the decision my
Mhm.
junior year. I was like, okay, I'm gonna start actually taking this seriously. And then I ended up getting mono. So I was hospitalized with mono for about
Oh
a
my
week.
gosh.
And then of course, mono, you're not allowed to practice or do any physical activity for the next 4 to 6
Yeah.
weeks. So in the heart of recruiting, I was completely taken out. I was just so anxious about where I was going to be taken. My dad, I know I mentioned Stanford University, I totally blew over that, but my father working at Stanford, I get free tuition. And I was looking with my recruiting coordinator, who was the club director at AP, and she was like, "Listen, I know like some of these. There's a list of schools that you can go to and get tuition exchange with Stanford University." And I was like, "No way, really?" So she said, "I'm going to tell you every single person that I know on this list, and I'm going to talk to them and call them about you, and I will get back to you." So for my whole junior year, we're looking through this like list of 200 something schools. Most of them are D2, D3. A lot of them are like D1. There's some big schools like Baylor, Syracuse was on there. And so I am talking to so many schools, but it was all so surface level. Weren't really interested in me, but they did like the idea of me coming on as a walk on, not having to pay for tuition and using me,
Mhm.
as a preferred walk on. So come around my senior year, I'm finally getting back into the groove of things. My senior year season, of course, I'm coming off of a crazy high school run, and then I'm super excited to start my 18s year. I'm still not committed yet. So I go on 3 visits. I went to Louisiana Tech, ULM, which the two of those are not on the tuition exchange list. So I'm like trying my best to kind of go off of the exchange list. I want to be a scholarship athlete. I want to be wanted in a program. And so a lot of coaching changes moved around. There was just so much things in the air. And then my coach came to me after practice and was like, "Hey, like, have you heard of Seton Hall University? Like, I think that you would really like it there. You mentioned that you want to go to New York City, right?" And I was like, "Yeah," because I was a journalism major, wanted to be in the sports industry. I was like, "I want to work for ESPN. That's all the way up there in Connecticut. Like, let's freaking go. I'm gonna go."
Mhm.
So this is kind of where the whole crazy recruiting part comes in. So got on a phone call with Seton Hall, immediately fell in love. I looked up everything that I could. I love the Big East Conference. I just was like, this is perfect. It's in New Jersey. It's 30 minutes away from New York City. I could take a train. This is really cool.
Mhm.
So I ended up going on a visit without even talking to the head coach. And so I came into her office after watching them play DePaul. And she was like, "Listen, we have no money. We're going to have to bank on you getting that tuition exchange, but you'd be a great addition to our program." So fast forward, didn't get approved for tuition exchange. I fell in love with the school so much that I was like, "Mom, like, you have to let me go to this school." And she's like, "We can't afford it. I'm so sorry." So February comes around and the coaching staff calls me and says, "Hey, I've got good news and I've got bad news." And I was like, okay." So one of the girls that I met on the visit texted me 10 seconds after I ended that phone call and said, "Our coaching staff is no longer here. They're gone." And I was, "Oh, wow." So that's completely out the window. So ended up being recruited by the assistant that was at Seton Hall. She went to another school and I kind of went with her because she really liked me as a player. And so I was like, okay, so that totally fell through. And then I opened up basically my recruiting process because I wasn't committed, but I knew that I wanted to go to Seton Hall. And then when I went to all of these different other schools. I'm talking to them again, very surface level. I'm sending emails through sports recruits every single day. My mom didn't touch a single thing. I was very adamant about wanting to do my own recruiting process, representing myself and who I am and who I wanted to be. So then I get to March of my senior year, and I'm deciding between Siena and a couple of other schools, just kind of on my list. And I get a text from the same girl that told me that the coaching staff left. She said, "We have our new hire." And I was like, "No freaking way." So ended up telling me the new head coach that they hired. I looked at my phone, already talked to her at a previous school. So she recruited me at her previous school before she got to Seton Hall. So I was like, we have it in the bag. Like, I am so excited. I'm so ready. I immediately text her without it even being announced that she's the actual coach. I said, "I heard from a friend that you got the job at Seton Hall. I just want you to know I don't even need to take a visit. I've been on a visit before. I absolutely love it. I will commit over the phone if you tell me that you have an opportunity." And she was like, "Okay, give me a second. I haven't even moved into my apartment. Like, let me." and we'll get back to it. So I'm very eager. A week goes later, she calls me randomly. She said, "Hey, do you have any outside film?" And I was like, "Yeah, totally. I have outside film." And so, me not having outside film, I drove to my gym. I made my recruiting coordinator toss me some balls on the outside and just, prayed for the best. And she's texted me and she said, I know that, Canisius was her previous school. And she said that she was like, I know Canisius was on the exchange list. Do you want me to check if Seton Hall? And I said, oh, well, here's the thing. I got denied from the exchange list. I'm not really sure if there's anything that you can do. So I woke up that next morning. She said, check your email. And I was like, and so she reversed the tuition exchange. I'm not sure how she did it, but she did it. So she told me that she wanted me to be a preferred walk on. And I was like, let's freaking do it. So I talked to my mom, I talked to my dad, immediately committed that next morning. I remember we had prom that weekend and I had like a spray tan, my hair was done. I remember grabbing my Seton Hall shirt that I got at the game and putting it on that morning and calling her and saying, I'm going to take your offer. I'm ready to be a pirate. So, crazy story, but I ended up committing at Seton Hall. And, I've had some really hard conversations with her over the phone even before. She said, she gave me my offer, she said, Mackenzie, I'm not going to promise that you're going to get any playing time here, but, you love it so much. And I don't see why not. So I had in the back of my head, I'm going to prove her wrong. I want to have fun. I want to go to this school and academically, it's going to be a great degree. And all of these other things. So everything outweighed just the possibility of me even playing. I didn't even care about that. I just wanted to go to the school. And so, yeah, that next day I committed and had some hard conversations with some other coaches saying like, look, this is what happened in the past week. I'm so sorry, but thank you so
Mhm.
much for your time. And I really appreciate you spending the time to, take me as your player. And so, yeah, that whole rest of the club season, I was just so ecstatic to have finally a home because I'm March of senior year. I mean, most kids commit like, junior year. I felt so behind, but I just knew in the back of my head that I was going to end up somewhere where I just absolutely loved. And I'm a very stubborn person too. So I knew in the back, I'm going to make anything happen. Like, seriously, this is what I want and I'm going to get it. So, yeah, that was the first go around of high school recruiting. And of course, I have.
First, I give you so much credit because not many athletes are confident enough or strong enough to be vouching for
Right.
themselves when it comes to recruiting. Like a lot of athletes are, at least when I was in high school too, I always assumed either it was my coach or the college coaches coming to me. I didn't realize how much control I could have or should have had on my own
Right.
recruiting. And I just commend you a lot
Thank you.
for vouching for yourself, for sending on those emails. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of follow up. It's a lot of tracking things down. Like, what schools did I email so far? Which ones am I interested in? What does the prioritization look like? How do I fit in going on these college visits on top of school and life stuff and everything else and your own volleyball practices and everything? So I just give you so much credit. And like so many times that you were talking, I just felt like a little bit of chills while you were talking because it's just such a cool story. I'm really glad that the Seton Hall coach did give you that opportunity though and look into your tuition. And I feel like that was just such a game-changing moment. Everything falls into place when it's meant to. Like maybe there was a reason why at that time, even though it was maybe delayed than normal, for that to come through for you. But I feel like it just like the stars aligned in that time for you.
Yeah.
And I really love that you like your perspective on the playing time and proving them wrong and her being transparent with that up front, because I feel like, when you are expecting to be committed somewhere, it's like almost an assumption, hey, you're going to be playing this role, you're going to be fulfilling this responsibility in the team. And it's not always, black and white. There's always a gray area when it comes to that. And development and then other recruits and then the girls who are already on the team. So I just feel like you're incredible with just talking to you for a few
Ah,
minutes and just like your story and determination. So a lot of energy
thank
back to
you.
you on that.
Appreciate it.
So then you go to Seton
Yeah.
Hall. Can you tell me about your freshman year
Oh,
there?
girl. Yeah.
Let's get
I
into
am
it.
telling you, if anybody is listening to this, freshman year, you go through the Doonies. Like
Mhm.
I almost feel like every single athlete that has either been on my team or friends, its freshman year is rough. But what a privilege it is to go through hard things. I actually saw this thing today and it relates a lot to what my freshman year was like. Someone said when you have a cup that's filled to the brim, it's almost impossible not to spill it over, right? And
Mm.
so he said that abundance requires control. And I feel like when you're working so hard in high school to go and just reap the benefits of how hard you've worked in high school to then go onto a college team, it's like, oh my gosh, I get free gear. I get free food. I have all these friends. I'm in a college dorm. I'm living by myself. And it's like all of these lifestyle changes, there was nobody to say, you need to control your priorities. And so, of course, you have to learn time management. Of course, you have to learn you got to wake up at 6 a.m. and you got to go to lift. And then immediately after, you're going to go to practice. And you might not even get talked to at practice, like you might not get hey, Mackenzie, we're going to coach you right now. And so I just, full transparency, freshman year was hard. I was a very bubbly, like I was saying in my, when I was talking to you about high school, it's just, I loved coming to practice. I loved making my teammates laugh. I loved being in the gym and working hard and putting my head down. And every single day, my freshman year, it just felt like I was failing myself and failing other people just because I put myself into this opportunity of like, you're a college athlete now, you better act like it. And I didn't give me that, like my own space. I didn't hold space for growth and mistakes. And I would cry every single day at practice. I would come out of the locker room and just like cry. And I never really was homesick. I think that a lot of freshmen deal with that as well. But my homesickness was, who am I? Like, I'm not wanting to be home with my family. I want to be who I used to be. I was homesick for who I used to be. And I will never forget. This is like a crazy story. And I've told a lot of people about this. I'm very vulnerable and transparent about my personality and who I was my freshman year as well, because people need to learn. And, I feel like I went through those things so I could talk about it. But I will never forget, we were doing this drill my spring of my freshman year. And my captain, her name was Taylor Jacobowski. She is literally my role model in volleyball. She was the best. She's a setter, and she was doing this drill with me where it was like coaches on box and we're just playing defense. They're just hitting the balls at us so hard. It was a mental drill. Like they wanted us to fail. And so I remember getting hit to and missing the ball and then doing it over and over and over again. I just start breaking down, crying and screaming during the drill. And I am on the
Yeah.
floor after being pounded at for like 15 balls. I remember my teammate tried to help me up. And after I got up, I pushed her and I said, "Don't help me. I can do this on my own." And I will never forget, immediately after I pushed her and said, "Stop helping me," how much of a horrible teammate I was to my teammates in that moment. And I will remember the guilt and the frustration of, who am I, for the rest of my life, because that was genuinely such a turning point in my college career of, people know that you're struggling and people want to help you and they don't know how to help you. But when you are so angry and frustrated with yourself, there's just no way that you can lean on other people, because you have zero self-respect for yourself. And so I will never forget, it was just a combination of, I couldn't even play my own position. We had practice players that were playing over me. I was put to the side over and over and over again. And I will say my skill level was not at the same as where it needed to be for me to be able to compete in practice, but there was almost no opportunity for me to learn and to change. And so I would have countless conversations with my coach and just saying, "Oh, what do I need to do better? I want to do better. I need to do better." And it was just a built up frustration of like, oh my gosh, like, what am I doing here? Am I even meant to be here? And so over and over and over again in practice, I was depressed. Come around game time, I used all of that shame and all of that frustration, and I used it to be the bench captain. So my freshman year, I just immediately embraced that role. Every single time that I asked my coach, like, what do I need to do to be better? And she's like, "Mackenzie, like, you have a role that a lot of people can't do. And I want you to understand that it takes a lot of fortitude and you've gone through a lot of adversity, and like, you need to take that role with pride." And so I was like, "Okay, yes, like, you're right. Let's go. That's a role that I can do." So my freshman year, I pulled out the wigs. I had newspapers. I had ace cards. I had capes. I had a Gatorade. Like, I would just do all of these different bits on the bench. I remember when we played Villanova my freshman year, the announcer talked about me for a solid 5 minutes, just about where I was going crazy on the sideline during challenges and just kind of being the laughing stock of the Big East. I'm not going to lie. Like, there was people kind of knew us for our bench, and people knew that we were going to be out of pocket and say some crazy stuff. And That was kind of my role my freshman year, and it carried into my sophomore year. And so having that like freshman year just breakdown all like inevitably just made me such a happier person just because I knew that no matter what, I could go behind closed doors and just work hard and know that I was there for a reason. The way that I supported my teammates and the way that I realized you need to be a better teammate just set me up for so much success, not only as a person, but just in my future of I am being so selfish right now. Like I need to be better and I need to support my teammates in the best way that I can. And if that means that it's just going to be from the sidelines, then so be it. I'm going to be the best person that can do it.
I appreciate you so much for sharing everything that you went through. It says so much about who you are as a person and your growth. I think we're all human, and sometimes we all forget that we're human, right? And we have to lead with compassion and curiosity versus like jumping to conclusions. It's normal, especially in big life changes, like big life adjustments, to have those types of situations where you do just want to scream. You need an outlet for all the feelings and adjustments that you're going through. And I think as athletes, we have that already, right? Like we are expecting the highest of standards for ourselves. That's why we're playing sports. That's why we're in the competitive environment. We're always pushing ourselves to get better. That's why you wanted to play in college to continue the sport that you love and that's driving you. And then, when you are struggling internally, and this is where I think athletes and coaches both need to create that environment where you should feel like you can go to your coach. And I'm not saying you didn't feel that way, but like you should have the opportunities to be able to talk about the things that you're feeling or going through off the court or on the court to have that outlet before it gets to a point where you're like, there's nothing else I can do besides just push somebody away because I physically do not want them helping me. I can't handle that mentally. And so I think that's a conversation that just really needs to continue for both athletes and coaches and, parents too. Like, a lot that you told me was that you handled a lot of the recruiting yourself. That shows who you are.
Mhm.
But then at the same time, when you are struggling with going through finding yourself again and who did I used to be now that I'm in this new place, in this new role, in this new routine, to be able to find a way to get not help necessarily, but just being able to talk about it, right? You should have a way to vent about what you're going through without somebody having to feel like they need to fix
Mhm.
it. And I'm a fixer. Like when somebody's going through something, I'm like, I want to do something to help you. But I've also been on the flip side of that where I've been in similar situations as you. Like for me in college, freshman year for everybody, regardless if they're playing a sport or not, it's like probably one of the hardest transitions in general. And then adding a sport and expectations on top of it, it's hard. But, I've had those times too, especially freshman year in college where you're like, what am I doing here? Like, I'm responsible for my whole schedule. I'm figuring out who I am again now that I'm an adult and on my own. It's just not talked about enough, the transition to college in general, on top of everything else that you shared too. So I just hope you give yourself grace looking back and the fact that you can be just kind to yourself with going through that. And I'm sure your teammates also know that it's just something you were going through. And would you, if you could go back, would you not do that? Maybe, but it's like I think we all learn from it, and everything, even if it's negative, happens for a reason so that we can grow from it. And so I just hope you continue to look at that time as like maybe sure a mistake, but it's not a failure and it's not something that defines you. It's a weak point in a moment that we all have, and especially when you're doing a mental drill like that where you're like, I want to lose my mind. I don't even understand maybe like the point of this or why you're doing this to me. I'm over getting balls killed at me all the time. So I think it's just a frustrating environment that clearly they were probably testing
Yeah.
your mental strength, but at the same time, it doesn't mean you were not mentally strong. They just fractured like a weakness. When you're trapped in high school too, like you had an amazing high school career, especially, but there's a lot of kids in high school that, either aren't going to play in college or maybe not even playing on club teams where they're trapped with those same people, the same coaches, the same environment. And I feel like a lot of athletes go through the feeling of wanting to scream and lash out because they're not getting listened to.
Yeah. 100%.
There was a year in high school where I was a sophomore on varsity, but I wasn't getting a ton of playing time just because I was like in between roles. And that was really before finding my place. And I think I rode the bench like, yeah, probably like 95% of the season. But I was the type of person too to want to be positive on the bench. Like I never wanted to sit on the bench and pout. It was like that's not our roles. If you're a bench player, you are supposed to be fulfilling a different role for your team. You're supposed to keep the girls on the court working harder so that you don't take their spot even though you want it and you can fight for it. When you got to like your sophomore and junior years, and especially when going to the transfer decision, what did that next step look like for you?
Yes, my end of my sophomore year after season, so around this time, my sophomore year, I had a breakdown on the bus, and that same captain that I pushed away came next to me on the bus, and she was a senior at the time, and she told me, she was like, "Mackenzie, you can do so many things." I just knew in the back of my head that I wasn't going to ever get the attention that I needed, or just in general, I just felt very lost. And so I decided, I was like, you know what? I'm going to think about transferring. And I had a couple of conversations with my previous assistant coaches and all of my high school coaches, just kind of like, hey, I need guidance here. And in that time, I leaned so much on just the people around me, and kind of told myself, like, I'm going to give myself some grace here. I'm really sad, but at the end of the day, is this just a period of me being sad that I'm still not getting the playing time that I want? I'm still working super hard in practice. I'm having people tell me that you should be getting playing time. Or is this just something that, I need to put my head down and work through again? Because, freshman year, I was just so used to being told that it's going to be like, you're not going to get the opportunity that you wanted. And I was like, is this going to be a 4-year thing for me? Or is this just going to be something where it's like, okay, like maybe next season I'll work hard, it'll be okay. Well, I signed a full year lease because I lived off campus. And so I was like, you know what, financially, I cannot support myself because I still paid for housing. I was like, I can't put my mom through that situation. I'm gonna have to stay, and I love my teammates so much. So it was a really hard decision for me to make. And I inevitably just ended up staying for the spring semester. And then the day that we had our exit meetings in the spring, I walked into my coach's office, and she basically just told me, like, we're not gonna travel you. If you come into my office one more time asking about playing time, like, we're gonna consider taking you off the team. Just some really harsh things to hear, but she was very transparent about it. It was just kind of a moment for me to be like, okay, wow, like, I'm not wanted here on this roster right now. And she was pouring a lot of time and energy into a lot of other teammates, and I have so much respect for her for having that hard conversation with me. And I just told her, I was like, listen, I'm going to make a decision by tomorrow, and I'll come into your office and I'll let you know. And then after hearing that, I was just like, I don't have any self-respect for myself if I stay here. Like, I love volleyball anymore. I don't feel like I'm being honored, or even like, before, my role was, hey, like, you're doing great on the bench, like, let's give you the social media passwords, like, you should run our TikTok. Like, I had TikToks being on NCAA posted. I had social media. I was running our social media for Instagram, TikTok. I was doing takeovers. I just felt very like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And then
Mhm.
immediately, once that volleyball was threatened to be taken away from me, I was like, what am I doing? Kind of like a reality check there. So I talked to a lot of people who had previously been in the portal, and they were like, listen, I'll help you through it. Let's go. So I had a lot of people to lean on, which is probably the most important thing that helped me in my decision, was I wasn't doing it by myself. And just like what you were saying earlier, it's like, you need that space to be able to talk about things and talk things through, because once you verbalize it, it just makes yourself feel so much better. And so I ended up going into the portal, and one of my previous club mates was at West Georgia. And so she was like, listen, like, we're going from D2 to D1. I think that you would be a great fit here. Like, you should talk to coach. So I ended up talking to the head coach at West Georgia, came on a visit, immediately fell in love with it. And I think I committed within 2 weeks of me being in the portal. So super, super quick turnaround. High school was a very, very different recruiting process than the transfer portal. But I will say, in the portal, you know what you want, you know what you don't want, and you know what you
Mhm.
like, and you know what you don't like. So
Mhm.
I was just immediately like, felt so much closure, and felt super excited, not only for me to be able to enter a new program, but just to get a new opportunity to prove myself again. And so I came to West Georgia on a full ride scholarship, and it was just so surreal feeling of, wow, I'm paying for school right now. I mean, I got tuition covered for, but that still was $12,000 a year, or a semester even. And so I was like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm gonna not let my parents pay for school. Like, that's kind of been my goal right now. So I talked to a multitude of schools, but inevitably West Georgia was just, I wanted to be something that was bigger than myself. I wanted to be a part of history, and I was just really excited to get a new opportunity and be closer to home. It's only an hour and a half away from where I live. Instead of a 16-hour drive or a 5-hour flight over, that's $10,000, but whatever. So it was just really nice for me to be able to be, like, close to home and just a whole different environment. I love the ASUN conference. I think it's a very, very competitive conference, and, just being, like, the first time that we would ever play everybody, I was like, "Let's freaking go. This is gonna be awesome." So, I got to West Georgia and, same thing, just put my head down and worked. I'm in a whole new environment. I still don't really know. I know some of the girls on the team because I played club with them, but, like, still, was really good friends with the freshmen at the time because it's kind of like the incomers. I was really just kind of lost in what, my role was going to be. And then I had my first meeting at the beginning of the year talking about kind of depth chart wise. And so she told me that we were going to be running a 5-1 and that I was not the right side. And so I was very disappointed. I remember coming back into my room and kind of crying and just being like, wow, I went to the transfer portal, like, and I wanted to play, and that was my most important thing. And I'm not going to get that chance. And so it was just really disappointing, especially as a junior. I worked way too hard to be in the portal and not be able to have an opportunity. And so we get like maybe 4 weeks into play. We're doing great. As a first time D1 team, we're winning some games that people didn't think that we were going to win.
Mhm.
I was supporting my teammates. I've been on the bench 2 years before, so I had no problem being on the bench again. I was kind of acclimating to the bench cheers here, but the culture was completely different. Just a lot more reserved, a lot more conservative of like, okay, you can't really be screaming like that. You don't need to be saying those.
Mm,
Um, and a bad
mhm.
thing, it's just a culture shift. I felt like,
Yeah.
okay, like I need to kind of check and see what I can say, what I can't say, whatever. And so a lot of the times I was kind of scolded for just being myself. And so it wasn't necessarily, I was like, wow, I don't think this was a mistake. I didn't think it was a regret. Like what you said earlier, everything happens for a reason. I just kept telling myself over
Mhm.
again until we played Jack State, who was my second option. I was going to commit to Jack State before I committed to West Georgia. And we played at Jack State. And I remember I didn't play that whole game. And I remember just crying in the bathroom, like, wow, I could have been playing and, just I was kind of like a what would have been kind of moment for me. And it was just another breakdown of like, wow, like did I really make the right decision? So fast forward, halfway through the season, I still hadn't played a lick of a set. My coach kind of was in the mindset like, okay, this is our starting lineup. We're not going to make that many changes to it. We're going to
Uh,
stick it out. And so I still was trying to crack the starting lineup in practice. We would do A versus B side every single day. And I felt like I was his freshman year again. Like I'm starting from the bottom. I can't crack the code. I can't do it. And so I just had this really like crazy moment of, wow, is this really what I want to do for the rest of my life? And, I contemplated quitting. I was like, I have one more year left. Like I can do it. It's okay. Well, then I ended up going into my coach's office and just again, like saying, this is where I am mentally. I need help. And she was like, well, here, like, this is what we can do. So I said, well, is there any way that I can just redshirt? Can I just save this year and be able to play my fifth year? And she was like, you know what? That's a great idea. Like, well, let's get you that red shirt and everything's going to be fine. So my freshman year, I played, unfortunately, like what? I think I played only one game. It was my birthday too. So I wasted 3 points on a freshman red shirt, but it's okay. Everything happens for a reason yet again. And so
mhm,
I ended up
mhm.
redshirting my junior year along with one other freshman who is my best friend to this day. And so we kind of just like after we established that we were in a redshirt position, I just had immediately like physical weight taken off of my chest. I could go into warmups knowing that I would never step on the court, that if they needed me to throw someone in, like I wouldn't be there. I knew that like every day in practice, I was going to work hard because I wanted my teammates to be better, but it was never a status of like, okay, the end goal isn't to play right now. The end goal is to, be myself again and find the love of volleyball. So we ended up just barely not making the tournament my like last year. And it was really sad because we had a lot of seniors and fifth years that we wanted to, make history for. We wanted to be the first. We were first school or first team that won a Division 1 game at the school, so that was really cool. And we also did really really well in the ASUN. Like nobody really expected us to be at least win 3-4 games, and so end of the season, just was very grateful that I could have that other year, but it was go time from then on. Put my head down, work again, work again. And then my senior year came along and I worked the most I've ever worked in my life. My summer going into this season, I lost around 15 pounds. I worked so hard that I was working out every single day. I went to summer school and got some of my credits done. Like I'm just fully bought in with school, volleyball, everything, my lifestyle. And so I went into that first meeting and she said, yet again, you're our third pick. We're going with a 6-2. I'm not telling you that you're not going to be able to play, but I'm just letting you know, like, you're not going to be in that starting lineup or you're not going to be able to get the opportunity to play until you can prove me some things. And I said, okay, like, thank you again. I appreciate you telling me and being transparent, but like, I'm going to prove you wrong. So we come to our first tournament. I get thrown in a couple of times. I never felt like I could fully play without having that target on my back of if you make the mistake, you're out.
Mhm.
So it was just really tough for me to go mentally from being, okay, freshman year, you're not going to play a lick. You don't deserve to be on the team to sophomore year, like, okay, like you're getting your groove. You're not freshman year. You're still not really going to play, but you're an asset in the gym. Junior year to being this new hotshot transfer, having so much to prove, not being able to prove anything and being the
Mhm.
bench with no zero playing time to senior year being thrown in. Just like, again, I took on that bench role of like, listen, like if I'm not going to play, I'm going to do my best to support my teammates. I've done it for 3 years. I can do it for one more. And so there was just multiple times this season where it was like, okay, like you're on the right side. Well, now you're not producing offensively, so we're gonna kick you out and we're gonna put another girl in. And just a lot of like moving parts of the situation. But I'm very grateful for the time that I got. I got some film and, I made an impact in every way. We would, do practices and I felt proud of myself every single practice. It's weird how senior year versus freshman year, like there was a lot of practices freshman year where I did so bad and I wanted to cry. And I was like, wow, I had such a bad practice. But senior year, it's like, okay, that wasn't the best practice that I had, but, like, that's not the end of the world. I have the rest of my day, and, like, tomorrow's gonna be a new day, and just a mindset of, like, putting myself through every single day, it's not that big of a deal. Like, at the end of the day, my best friends, my teammates are gonna be my bridesmaids, like, period. I love the girls on the West Georgia volleyball team right now. They are seriously my best friends. I could never, ever, ever imagine a life where I'm not talking to them every single day. So, we ended up going 2-28, 2-29, didn't win a single conference game. Just terrible conference. Like, it was bad. And so we went through so much adversity and fortitude as a team this year, and I felt like it was just kind of an ironic, like, end of the year metaphor of, like, what my 3 years of college volleyball has been. Like, on paper, it looks terrible, but within the gym time that we had and within, like, every single day at practice, it was just the most joyful experience I could have ever imagined, and having like every single day being around my best friends and doing the sport that I love, it just kind of shifted my perspective of like, this is not like playing time is not what you want. It's the experience and the memories that you're gonna have. And I got thrown around as a blocking sub. We and to run a 5-1 because our second setter had to get surgery. We ran a 5-1. My roommate is the starting right side, and she's my best friend ever. I can talk to her about literally everything and anything. There's no animosity on the team about who's playing, who's not playing. It's just such a healthy
Mhm.
environment with the players. Being able to just like be free and be myself and then have my teammates supporting me when I did play was just the mental, like literally the world to me. And so I ended up not really playing my senior night, which sucks, but I started in the rotation and then they took me out and kind of threw me back in, whatever. So kind of again, a testament to the whole season, just like being thrown into random positions and not having that consistency and solidarity told me everything that I needed to know about who I am as a volleyball player is I'm going to be the most supporting and the loudest cheerleader ever. And if that means I'm on the court, then I'm going to change the energy that way. And so, just so many opportunities to learn and be a better player and a better teammate. And that was just like, I got that my senior year. Like, it took me 3 years to get to that point. And so, that being said, now I had that conversation in October of, hey, the grad portal's open, coach. I really love the time that I was here, but if I can't financially be supported for my 5th year, then I'm going to find other opportunities. And she was fully understanding of that, helped me through the process and said, you know what, like I got your back no matter what. And so that was a really smooth transition, entered my name in the grad portal in October. And ever since then, it's just been calling coaches and saying like, what I'm saying to you is that no matter what, the next school that I go to, I know that I'm going to make an impact emotionally. And I hope to God that it can be physically because I want to show every 4 years of all the work that I've put into. I just want at the end of the day to be supported and go out with a bang. So it's been a really long journey and I wouldn't change it for the world.
Thank you for sharing all of that. It's a crazy journey. You had so many things that popped up of decisions you needed to make or wanted to make, and you're the one that knows what's best for you. Like we all can, from an outside perspective, somebody can say, oh, well, you should do this or you should do this. But at the end of the day, like you have to think about how you want to set yourself up for the next chapter of your life, whether that's the next school you're playing volleyball in, your future career you're thinking about, where you'd be happiest, if you want to be closer to home. There's so many factors as we become adults. And then there's like the physical piece and the mental and emotional pieces as well with it. First thing I wanted to touch on was that I think it was really awesome though to see opportunities such as redshirting. Like I think more college athletes need to be aware of that. If they're not getting the output of the physical playing time, then maybe talk to your coach, take the initiative. It's not like coaches are constantly thinking of, like, no offense, but coaches are not thinking of every single individual all of the time. It's like it's always majority a team effort. Obviously, they want to focus on the individuals as much as they can, but it's not realistic. So I really commend you for at least going in, seeing what is possible and taking a chance on that. Two, I think, transferring, like you said, it's like you're already going off of something that you've been in college, you kind of know what you like and don't like. You're using that to your next step in your chapter. You still don't know what the future holds fully, but you're at least giving yourself a chance. So I think that's always an option for anybody who feels trapped in a environment or situation, especially at the college level. Like I have coached many of athletes who went to go play at mostly D2 schools, I would say. And honestly, probably majority of them transferred after a year or two because they're like, that was really cool to be at that school, but that school didn't represent everything that I am dreaming of or looking for. So then they either went to a D1 school and tried out for the club team there. They either went to a different D2 school or maybe D3, or, some can also like go home and play at a junior college. It's like you can still have volleyball in your life on your terms. There's so many options, just people aren't always aware of what those options are. And on the transfer aspect, if somebody's going through the transfer portal right now, like I know you're looking into that again, do you have advice based on your last transfer portal experience? And like, what do you wish someone had told you the first time you went through that?
Yeah. So if I had any advice for people who are going to be in the transfer portal or are in the transfer portal right now, is to verbalize every single thing that you're thinking. I'm an overthinker myself. And I remember going into the portal and just not knowing anything. I feel like nobody really talks about the process of the portal. Like, have that conversation with your coach. And then it's like, okay, here's this module that you have to watch and make sure that you're going to be really okay with going into the portal. Well, here's this document that you have to sign. You're not really allowed to talk to coaches, but you can talk to coaches. They're not really allowed to talk to you back, but your recruiting coordinator. There's so many things that nobody talks about. And as a 17, 18-year-old girl who like went to high school recruiting and now you're a 20-year-old girl who has 2 years, 1 year of college under her belt, it's like nobody helps you in that aspect. And it's like when you trust yourself and you trust your instincts, first of all, the portal is the last place you want to be. I am not like, I do not encourage people to go into the portal unless they need it because genuinely is so mentally taxing going through and just having to not know where you're going to be within the next month or two. Like it is so unbelievably scary. And so it really is kind of like, okay, is this really what I want? Because then the second that you say, okay, I'm not liking where I am right now. I don't like my coach. I don't like my teammates. I don't like where I am. I don't like this XYZ, whatever it is. If you can say to yourself, I am okay with transferring to a school that I might not get playing time at, that I might not like my teammates. I might not get the degree that I really need, or I might, hate where I end up living. But volleyball means so much more than me. If I do not like where I am right now, I'm going to verbalize, this is what I need. What is the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing that can happen, like with me, I have 4 teammates who are in the transfer portal right now as we speak. And what I'm sitting with them and what I'm telling them is like, what, hey, I really need help. I'm scared. I don't know if I should go into the portal. I'd get coffee with these girls and be like, okay, what are you scared of? Tell me what you're scared of. I'm scared. I'm playing full positions right now. Like I have guaranteed playing time. I'm scared I'm not going to play. Okay, what does that really mean to you? Does playing time mean this and then getting treated by your coach a certain way? Does that mean more? So, kind of weighing what you think is admirable and priority in your list is kind of just going to help you go through that process and just have your and practice honestly self-reassurance. I feel like a lot of people don't talk about that as athletes these days. Like your validation as an athlete and your worth is determined by other people. And so taking back that power and saying, I want this for myself and I'm going to do this
Mhm.
for myself is so empowering and it just sets you up so much like for so much success in your future. I mean, so that's kind of just the biggest thing that I would say is just like take back your power. Transferring is not fun. Like I said, I wouldn't condone it, but I did it twice. Like I'm in the portal right now. And so it's like you have to know that the light on the other end of the tunnel is going to be so much better because you're going through this hard stuff right now and you're making hard decisions for a reason because everything happens for a reason. And so
Mhm.
I would just like I am so grateful for the portal because I transferred and I thought I was going to get playing time and I probably played at West Georgia. I think I played around 7 or 8 games out of all 30 something games. And that is not at all what I was imagining in my head when I committed there. But at the end of the day, I got my best friends. I got the most grateful opportunity of my life of living in my own apartment and being able to like just have my car. Like that was a luxury that I didn't have at Seton Hall. I didn't even have a car. I had no mode of transportation. And so it's just like being open to new opportunities and telling yourself that at the end of the day, everything is going to be okay.
Yes, and I think it says a lot because that was, and you pretty much just answered it, but that was gonna be my next question was like, how different things would have been if everything gone according to plan, right? Like you wouldn't have the best friends you do right now. You wouldn't have had the adversity and experiences that you can take off the court as well. And to your point on taking control back of yourself, like not just relying on external validation, especially in sports, that's one of the biggest things that needs to be discussed, but that's also for outside of the gym stuff
Yes.
too. We all need that internal confidence, that internal validation of like, we made the choices we did or we started what we did for a reason. And it's nowadays more than ever, especially with social media, it's easier to like allow others negative feedback to maybe deter our internal confidence. There's a lot of ways that we can take control of that ourselves. Do you have any advice on that realm of like if somebody is struggling with their internal confidence and validation, how to kind of bring that back
Yeah.
to themselves?
So I used to tell myself every single day that, when I was at my lowest and I had no idea what I was doing, I just reminded myself of my why. Like it's simple as that. It's okay, so what am I doing this for? Am I playing volleyball because of my parents or am I playing volleyball because of these things? And it's like when you focus your why and you play for other people, it makes it so much easier to just tell yourself that everything is going to be okay. And so a lot of the times too, just with the way that my brain works, like I'm not a very like externally my dad's a therapist and my mom's a real estate agent. We had a very great support system emotionally and like my mom is just very type A, like we're going to help you do this. I mentioned one thing, she said, "Okay, we're going to help you do that." Like both of my parents had no pressure of like you need to make great grades. You need to do this. They expected me to be the best person who I was. And I attribute so much of my personality and my priorities because of the way that my parents raised me. I never felt pressure from external things and I was always told to be myself. And so I just like a lot of my friends tell me like social anxiety fears me because that's just the type of person I am. So when I did mentally struggle, it was super scary because I never questioned who I was internally. I never felt like I had to conform to society or do something to make someone like me or like I always just unapologetically me all the time. And so it was hard for me to enter that space of like who am I? Just because it was never a feeling that I've investigated before or felt And so, yeah, I would say at the end of the day, like the biggest advice that I can do is just like start to trust yourself in scenarios where you don't feel like you need to trust yourself in. Like go to
Mhm.
the store and have fun, like go on a walk and think about all of the things that are you're so grateful for. Like I used to go this is so bad. When I had a really bad practice my freshman and sophomore years, I would walk around campus and I would point at things that I would say that's beautiful or that's really pretty. Because I was stuck in a gym at like 4 hours of the day playing in volleyball, and then I forgot, I was like, "Wow, like, I live on a beautiful campus. I have great friends." There is such a life outside of who you are, and even if not volleyball related, like, school's bad, work sucks, or you're having a really hard time with your friends, you're going through a breakup. Like, there are always things that are so much better than what you're going through. And you just have to remind yourself and be present in those moments. And so that really just got me through. My friends mean everything to me. That's kind of my thing is volleyball sucks, don't care. My friends come first. Like let's go hang out. Let's go to Crumple Cookie and drive 30 minutes to go get a $14 cookie. I just am
It's the little things in
right.
life that we gotta hold on to.
And it's like at the end of the day, like whatever is hurting right now, like when you verbalize it and you say, I'm gonna be okay, it just helps so
Mhm.
much.
It does.
Yeah,
Thank you for
of
sharing that.
course.
I really appreciate it. Yeah, you shared the most amazing things today. I literally could talk to you for hours and
Yeah,
hours and hours on
a
this
long
stuff. It's
story.
so easy too. So I do have one last question for you. I do want to go back to feeling like being yourself and kind of having that almost reeled in a way, especially through transferring and just the culture shifts and like what you were used to being able to do versus not. Do you think that's a common thing for college athletes to fulfill a model of what they're expected to act like, look like, be like, or what does that stem from your viewpoint?
Yeah, so I was always so embarrassed during high school recruiting and even the thought of being a bench player. I think that
Hmm.
there's a huge stereotype of sorry, I think that there's a huge
You're good.
stereotype of who you're supposed to be when you walk onto it. If you're playing in college, like you're gonna be the biggest star. And so I think that there is kind of just like a socially acceptance of like, oh, you might not play your freshman year. You know, you're not really expected anything of your freshman year. And then there's other people like we had a freshman this year. Actually, we had 3 freshmen in 6 rotation roles this year. And so I was talking to our 6th rotation outside who's a freshman, and I got with her
Hmm.
one day and I was like, I cannot imagine the amount of pressure and the amount of mindset like anxiety that you have because she had a very hard freshman year, but you wouldn't see it because she performed so well. But it was just over and over and over again. It's like this expectation, like coach isn't going to pull you out. You have to be this, you have to do that. And it's like there's always 2 ends of the stick. Like at the end of the day, I am so thankful. And it goes back to the like abundance needs to be controlled is I can't imagine having my cup overflow every single day. I can't imagine having to, have that role as a starting freshman outside, having to serve receive, having to pass, having to block, having to do all these things, put away the ball, be expected to be the go-to. There's just so many things that, at the end of the day, a college freshman would love to play, but I am so grateful that there's been that okay, like you need to have a developmental year or, you're not ready yet.
Hmm.
And so I was always so scared of the like, what are people going to think? Like, I'm going to Seton Hall. It's a really good school. And like, people know that I'm playing in college. And then they're going to look at my stat line and they're going to see that I didn't play the whole season. Like, what are people going to think of me? Like, am I even worthy enough to be a part of the program if I'm just going to be sitting the bench the whole time? And it's like, I think I grew out of that my sophomore year because at the end
Hmm.
of the day, like, I went to a school in Alabama, and half of the people that went to my grade either went to Alabama or Auburn or in sororities, and they're doing some amazing things with Panhellenic. And a lot of people in my grade are like, starting to do these really cool internships and like be their own person. It's like once you get out of that high school, like group conformity, like you have to do everything and you have to be popular, you have to play a sport, you have to do this. Like people really don't care by your sophomore year, your junior
Mhm.
year. And so I would just encourage, if you're like getting recruited right now and you're scared of not playing or not getting that satisfaction of being a player of the year or being a freshman of the year, like at the end of the day, there's always going to be opportunity for you to work for a position. And that's more rewarding than having a position and having to get it ripped from you, or having to keep up and have all this stress of like, wow, like I'm not good enough to stay on the court. So at the end of the day, I'm very thankful that I was kind of having to overcome that embarrassment of not playing. But like, I make jokes about it today. Like, I was a senior on a like team that was 2 and 29 that didn't play. Like, wow, like what a volleyball. But nobody cares about that. Nobody's looking, nobody's gonna think back in 10 years like,
No.
"Wow, you were a college athlete, but you didn't play. Who cares?" I did every single thing that the starting right side did. I went sure, if anything, I did more than what the starting people do, because, like, you don't have that label of the starting player. You don't have that, like, opportunity and that weight of feeling scared that you're going to make a mistake every single time that you play. And so it's just a very different experience, I guess. I don't know.
It's hard too because we're normally most critical of ourselves. Like nobody really looks at our mistakes or failures or cares, like you're saying. But on the sports thing as well, it's like you're talking about stats and you're like, okay, well, if somebody sees that I didn't play or I have like a 0% in hitting because I haven't been playing or whatever, but we all fill a different role on the team that isn't always a tangible number to show how worthy we are or how good of an athlete we are or how much we bring to the table. So I'm just glad that you have grown into that mindset though. Your high school stats show like the most incredible
Yeah.
statistics you would ever probably see. And then you just transfer to this situation where you just don't have that much tangibly. If somebody was taking your stats in a practice, they'd probably be amazing. Or like if you got the opportunity to have a consistent role, they'd be amazing. But you're also, again, bringing such a positive dynamic to have accepting the bench position and working through, your own personal journey with it as well, on top of still trying to show up and be that teammate and the growth that you've gone through. So I just give you so much credit because I feel like most people would have quit by now, just given all that you've gone through personally and as a team, and you have it. And I think that says more than a lot of starters like could even ever say or ever experience themselves. And you've learned more to take off the court as well than most of those other
Yeah.
people additionally.
I just read, I have a journal that I write in after every exit meeting or pre-meeting, whatever. And I actually was going through one of them yesterday, and this was actually very recent. This was August 20th of 2025. And I said in my meeting, this is post-meeting after I was told that I wasn't going to be playing. I said, it's been 4 years and it really never gets easier to hear that you're never going to be the top pick. You think after all these years of rejection, it would just prepare you, but it doesn't. It'll always sting. But the sting can never really last that long. It'll eventually manifest into a fire of hatred and jealousy. However, this season will be different because I know who I am and I have the Lord with me at all times. I have peace and strength, but I will never cease my fire. My firm foundation is the Lord, and I'm thankful for all of these lessons. My fortitude outranks almost everyone on the team. Mark my words, I'll stick to my goal. I'll never stop fighting, and I'm going to earn my spot. And so, me reading that and like having that season, and I realized that at the end of the day, the goal was never to earn my spot. It was never the spot earned on the court. Earning my spot was becoming the person who I am today. And I'm forever grateful for that. Yeah.
Wow. You're gonna like make me cry, I swear. That's so beautiful. No, and it's amazing though. Like it's just I don't know. I can't say enough how like just genuine you are. You're so real and everything you've shared is going to be so helpful to so many people and it's helpful for myself like even to hear it from like a coach perspective and an old player perspective. I have so much gratitude towards you but also admiration, and I mean you're younger than me but I look up to you in a lot of those ways for
Thank
how
you.
much you've grown and what you've written and just what you stand for.
Yeah.
So I just can't thank you enough for joining today and
Thank
sharing
you.
everything you
That's
did.
really kind. I appreciate
Yeah, I mean all of it.
it.
Yeah, I mean all of it truly, and everybody listening is going to feel the same way. And you just radiate genuineness, like, and I really admire that
Thank
about
you.
you.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that my story definitely needs to be shared, not just because it's my
No.
story, but because there's so many people out there that need to hear that at the end of the day, like you're gonna be okay, and playing time is
Mhm.
not all that matters. It's not about how many kills that you get during a game or how you feel after a practice or what your coach tells you. At the end of the day, it's about your journey and your growth and what you're gonna take out of it, and going through hard things is gonna be the most beneficial thing that you're ever gonna go through in your life, and, I can't thank, you enough for giving me the opportunity to talk about it,
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean, I'm going my 5th year, we're still trying to see where I'm gonna end up, and
Yeah.
I'm not only gonna be using what I've learned in my 4 years, but I'm also gonna be learning some new things, like, you never stop learning, you never stop loving. I have a tattoo on my arm, you can't really see it because 'cause I'm wearing a sweatshirt, but it says learning and loving, and, it's just kind of a testament to what I've gone through in my whole life is, you're always going to be learning, and volleyball is gonna be over for me in 4 months, I am not gonna be a college athlete anymore. But I'm always gonna forever remember how much fortitude I had in those 4 years of college volleyball, and that's just gonna carry me into times where it's like, if I wanna be an entrepreneur or do things that you're doing and giving a platform for people to speak on, never forget that why you started this. Never forget that no matter how hard it gets or no matter if you think that you're gonna doubt yourself, you're doing this for your reason, and if you just keep
Mhm.
going and you keep qualifying yourself in that regard, it's like nothing can be taken away from you in that moment, so
I appreciate you saying that. I need to hear that too. So thank you. I'm really excited to see what is next for Mackenzie Yoakum.
Yay!
That's for sure. And there's so much good to come for you. I just know it.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Mackenzie, for joining. She's that you shared the most incredible things with us today. And thank you, everybody, for joining this week. And we will see you next Wednesday.